What is up everyone? Welcome to something a little bit different. Today I don't necessarily have anything new to talk about. This is simply a progress update and a little sneak peek of some of the things I've got going on with my network, but probably more specifically my file storage in general. Now, I've had a lot of requests to do the next part of the network series, but I do not have enough new stuff to talk about to make another home networking video. Everything is pretty much exactly the same as it was before. But anyway, let's just dive right in and take a look at what I've got going on. So firstly, this is a screen shared desktop. Of course, this is my main system here. I've just got done editing a vlog, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this vlog very soon. But yeah, this is my Mac Mini desktop, and for those of you who don't know, or for those of you who haven't seen my networking videos, I run a 2007 1.83 GHz Core 2 Duo Mac Mini as my server. It's on 24 hours a day, and it does quite a lot for me, if I'm being totally honest. It really does, considering the age of the machine and considering all of the things I do. It's surprising what this system allows me to achieve with just a few simple little things. So basically, this Mac Mini still, even with my new fast internet connection, this Mac Mini still acts as my upload server for YouTube. It's a total upload slave. So if I edit a video and then I export it, and say for instance while the video is exporting I'm working on a thumbnail and things like that, by the time the video is done exporting, I'll set it to upload using the Mac Mini, and I've always got Windows open here for upload to the main channel and also upload to the vlog channel, as you can see the two latest videos there. So those windows are always open. It's very convenient for me, and I export directly to the Mac Mini, to the Monster RAID, which I'll show you in a second, Monster RAID. But yeah, often when I do that, as I was saying, it's time for me to then shut down my main machine once the video is exported, because I'm all about saving power these days, and this machine boots up pretty quickly anyway, so I don't really mind shutting it down nearly every time I leave the room. I shut down my Hackintosh and then I walk away to do something else, and even though the upload is maybe only going to take 10, 20, 30 minutes depending on the length of the video, the Mac Mini can still slave away doing that while my main machine is off, which is fantastic. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is it's my print server. So basically my printer is connected via USB to the Mac Mini, and then I can print from anywhere in the house via the Mac Mini, which is extremely handy, works very, very well, it works seamlessly. And the third thing that it does for me, or the main third thing, is file storage. And this is the main point that I'm going to focus on in this video, because I think you guys will be proud of me. Any of you who have been watching the vlogs will hear me complain about my file storage scenario from time to time, and I am finally tackling it, or at least I'm attempting to tackle it. So as you can see, I've got a load more external disks on the desktop here, and I'm going to take the time in this video to explain what all of these are and how I've got things configured. Now, just before we take a look at the rack, why is this necessary? Well, unfortunately, due to a couple of recent events, I have not had as much money as I'd hoped to dump money into a new set of hard drives and a motherboard solution for my new NAS system. Because that's basically the only hardware I need. I've got a case, I've got a PSU, I've got all the little bits and bobs I need. I'll be able to find a boot USB or SSD or something from somewhere. I just need a motherboard and hard drives. And the motherboard is obviously going to be Mini ITX eventually. I've been saying I'm going to build this system for about 3 years, but every time I try and build it, things just pop up and things crop up, and it's kind of more difficult now than ever. So this is a kind of, this data shifting that I'm doing at the moment is to carry me over until I can hopefully afford to build this NAS. It's not the price of the motherboard. I can hunt eBay and get a motherboard CPU combo for around 50 quid that'll work great. It's just the hard drives. And to implement this system in the way that I want to implement it, it's going to be quite expensive to buy that kind of storage. So what have I done in the meantime? Well, here it is, folks, the famous server rack. I was so shocked at how popular these network videos ended up being. They've got thousands and thousands of views, and I have no idea why. This is by no means any high-end or impressive stuff. This is just a very, very normal home network setup. It's just kind of slightly more pretty, and it's got a bit more eye candy because it's in a nice rack cabinet and things, but all of this could be achieved with a far smaller setup. I just, you know, wanted to do this as a project, and I think it's really cool. But anyway, I'm really appreciative of those views, and surprisingly I don't have that much criticism on those videos. Most people are supportive of the decisions that I've made in regards to my network. But anyway, let's talk specifically about what I want to chat about in this video. Here's the Mac Mini that I was talking about, and one thing that's remained a constant is this little guy. This 2.5-inch hard drive is a 1TB Western Digital My Passport drive. It currently holds my iTunes library. Now, why do I have my iTunes library on a portable external drive? Well, I've explained this before. Basically, it's so that I can unplug it from here, take it away, and I can take my iTunes library on the road. If I'm going on holiday, or going on a long journey, or going on a trip, or going to a gig, or anywhere I need my complete iTunes library, I can take it with me without any cloning, without any syncing. I can just take the physical drive, and then when I come home I can plug it back in and everything will be the same. Now, that's remained a constant, but there is something that has changed about the hard drive scenario in this rack. The Monster RAID, this hasn't changed. This has 4 300GB drives in it in RAID 5, so that's 900 gigs total. That's the box in which I export all of my videos to. So since this network has been put together, all of my YouTube videos are hosted on this guy, which saves a lot of space on my editing drive, and it makes it really easy to upload securely, because obviously this is a RAID 5, so if the drive was to die in here, I don't lose my export, so it saves me exporting it again. And of course 24/7, I can upload 24/7 whenever I want. It works out fantastically, so that hasn't changed. But what has changed? Well, as you guys can see, here we have this black drive. You guys will remember this from my old setup. That is a 3TB Western Digital MyBook drive for that I was using for Time Machine on my Mac Pro 3.1. When I had my Mac Pro 2008, I had roughly 3TB, give or take, 3TB of storage in the box, and this was a Time Machine backup for that system. Now you can see it's blinking away there, and if we come up, this is probably the biggest change since the last video. I've now incorporated the hard drive toaster into the server rack setup, which is sweet, because it is way more useful over here than where I originally had it, which was my main setup. Now, coming back over here, you guys can see that I have a transfer happening at the moment. It's a big transfer, and I've had transfers running to that 2TB drive and back and forth between different drives for the last 2 days or so, and it's been really handy. So what am I doing? Well, this is the plan, folks, and I'm quite liking this plan so far. I'm taking the image, or parts of the Time Machine image, from my Mac Pro 2008 Time Machine backup, and I'm storing it on this WD Black drive. Now, this 3TB drive was actually full to the brim, just a couple of megabytes free, and that's obviously only a 2TB drive, but that's absolutely fine. I can get my entire Mac Pro backup image on there with room to spare, because lots of that 3TB is actually duplicated on my archive drives. Now, these are 2TB green drives that I store old video projects on, and a lot of the video projects that are stored on those drives are located on here as duplicates, or vice versa. So that means that I can get a complete copy of my Mac Pro backup on that 2TB drive with room to spare. Now, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to be able to utilize this 3TB drive on a daily basis. I'll explain why in a second. But because there is so much data on there, it will take me a very long time and a lot of concentration sessions to try and arrange that data and find a place for all of the files. I had that Mac Pro for years and years, and it's a very cluttered Time Machine backup. So what I'm doing is, because this black drive is free, it's a spare drive that I'm not using for anything, I am dumping the Time Machine backup of my Mac Pro onto this drive so that in later months or even years from now, I can maybe attempt to sort it out. But to be perfectly honest, this is almost like a precaution. It's almost like a luxury measure because probably most of the data, if not all of the data, is located somewhere else. This is the problem. I'm finding it difficult to track my data, and it's hard. It gets harder with the more drives you have and the more systems you have. It just gets more and more difficult, especially if you don't come up with some kind of strategy from the beginning. So this 2 terabyte drive, whether I organize it in the future or not, it doesn't make much of a difference, but it's just a luxury for now. So once these transfers are done, that means I can take this 3 terabyte drive and I can format it, and then what am I going to use that for? Well, folks, this is the ultimate backup and something that will make me feel a lot more secure and safe. I'm going to use this as Time Machine from the Mac Mini to back up the internal 500 gigabyte drive of the Mac Mini, the 1 terabyte external iTunes drive, and the 900 gigabyte Monster RAID. I'm going to back up these 3 things at an hourly Time Machine backup on this 3 terabyte drive. So that whole system that you see there is one contained system, Time Machine of those 3 things just dumped onto there, and I think that is going to be fantastic. And yes, even though it is not an immense backup solution because it shares the same power supply, you know, if there was a voltage spike or whatever, then it would just as likely take this drive out as it would these drives. But with my limited resources and more so my limited budget, it's great just to get another backup of what's happening on the server system at the moment, because scarily enough, I do not have a backup of my complete iTunes image at the moment, just scattered old versions of that image lying about in other places. So that is that. Pretty simple to understand, but there were a lot more icons on my desktop than just these couple of drives, and that's where this drive comes in. This drive is a 2 terabyte Firewire drive, which I've owned for even longer than I've owned this one. Basically, I got these 3 drives from a friend of mine. She bought them for me when I was much younger and in a time of, you know, I needed file storage because of this YouTube stuff that I was doing, but I was just a teenager, so I couldn't afford storage. First of all, I believe it was Christmas 2010, I got this 750 gig. Then the following year, I got this, and this was a 2 terabyte. And then a year or maybe a year and a half after that, she got me this 3 terabyte drive. So grateful, and they're still all clonking along to this day. But anyway, I've repurposed this 2 terabyte drive. It hosted a backup image of Archive 1, which is actually quite an intriguing archive. It is this drive. It primarily holds 2 terabytes worth of Final Cut Pro 7 and Final Cut Express 4 HD projects, as well as some exports and things. So basically between 2009 and 2011 of my YouTube life. Now that's what was stored on that 2 terabyte drive, but of course I didn't need it there, I didn't need to access it, and this drive was powering up with the server and everything. I did not need that. So I freshly formatted this, and then what I did was partitioned it 3 ways. I partitioned it into 2 portions of 500 gigs, so partition 1, 500 gig, partition 2, 500 gig, and partition 3 as 1 terabyte. Now how am I going to utilize that storage? Well, check this out. This is a little Ethernet cable going to a USB 3 to Ethernet adapter, and this was here after a little backup session that I did yesterday onto partition 1 of that drive, and that is a networked Time Machine backup of my MacBook Pro to the first 500 gigabyte partition on this drive. So I now, finally, after well over a year, no, actually 2 years of owning that MacBook Pro, I have finally done my first Time Machine backup, which is brilliant. I used to be a religious Time Machine user, but I've really lost it, folks. So Time Machine backup over the network to this guy, which is so comforting. And the second 500 gigabyte partition is going to be for the exact same procedure, although I won't need this adapter. It's going to be the exact same procedure for Jess's MacBook Pro. She also has around 250 gigs of internal storage. In fact, I put a 250 gig SSD in there, so 500 gig is ample for Time Machine backup. I've got 256 gig in my MacBook, so 500 gig is ample for me as well. And of course, They will back up over Wi-Fi automatically. The only reason I've been plugging them in, or plugging my one in, I haven't done Jess's yet, the only reason I've been using wired is just so that the initial first backup of that, 150 plus gigabytes of data is much quicker. But all of these incremental backups can be done over Wi-Fi, which is great. So that's the next step. I'm going to get Jess's MacBook up here very soon to do the first Time Machine backup to this drive as well. So this is like a giant time machine. Now you may be wondering, what is the third partition for? 1 terabyte, that's quite a bit of space. Well, given all the other storage I have, and given the fact that I do not prioritize any set of videos more than others, I have a big problem in terms of my archive storage. Most of the data on these drives is not backed up in more than one place, which is something that the NAS is going to have to rectify, as well as maybe some more money on off-site storage, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. So what I decided to do was completely ignore this bigger problem, tackle a much smaller problem that could be useful for that 1 terabyte third partition, and that is, surprisingly, this guy. Now, I haven't backed it up yet, but all of the games that I've downloaded in recent months, or maybe over the last year or so, are actually getting to be quite a bit of space and took quite a while to download, even on my big connection. I've got quite a few games stored on here now, and I want them to be backed up so that I don't have to download them again, which obviously takes much more time than a simple hard drive transfer. So I'm going to be backing up my gaming PC, my Doom PC, and pretty much all of my Windows stuff in general on the third partition of this drive. So overall, what does this system now allow us to do? It means that everything that I have stored on the server, on the iTunes drive, which is my iTunes library, and Monster Raid, which is primarily my video export sort of dumping ground, as well as obviously they get uploaded from there as well. All of that will get backed up automatically to this drive once these transfers are complete, and then this is Time Machine for other systems around the house. The 2 MacBook Pros and the gaming PC, which is fantastic. Now, you guys might be thinking something else is a little bit strange here. You haven't mentioned Time Machine for the Hackintosh. Well, I've got this. This is a 750 gigabyte external drive that I'm not using for anything. I was using it for Time Machine in the recording studio at home with the PowerMac G5, but I never even used more than 100 gigs of space. So that stuff is actually stored on my old red WD Passport drive that you guys may remember. It's a little bit like this, but the older generation, 750 gig. So this drive is going spare. Now, the reason it's not connected at the moment is because I can't find the power supply for it, but once I find the power supply for it, it'll be going in the chain, so it'll be connected to the FireWire chain, which is obviously this drive and this RAID system. 750 gigs in size, works out 100% perfectly for, get this folks, the 2 128 gig SSDs within the Hackintosh and Hyperspace, which is my editing drive. And obviously that backup will change quite a lot because I actively offload from this onto Archive 3 at the moment, which is only about half full. I'm going to need to buy some more drives, but yeah, all of that will get backed up onto that 750 once I find the power supply for it wherever it's gone. So this means that every single system that I actively use will be backed up, which is fantastic. This solves one heck of a lot of my issues, and although this is by far nowhere near as cool as the scenario that I'd ideally implement, within this kind of rough time period in terms of money that I can spend on this sort of thing, this is pretty damn good. It's a pretty damn good solution in my opinion. Now, what is the next step? Now for me, the next step, I think, and you guys will have to let me know if you think this is a good idea, the next step is getting a big beefy external hard drive, a big Western Digital drive, one of their 6 terabytes or 8 terabytes, whatever they are. I think you can grab them for around 200, 250 quid these days, and just take massive dumps from that rack, dump it all onto there and take it up to my parents' house as off-site backup, which is something that I've never had it before, never had the luxury. Either that, or if I want to dump that money more into building the NAS, which will be more beneficial, especially once I sell my old UPS and get a new UPS so the power is more reliable, I could then get a smaller external drive, put essential files on that, and store that at my parents' house. So the NAS is not out of the question. Everything is pretty much exactly the same as it was before. You know, it's coming in the future. This is simply an update video to tell you guys that I am kind of plodding along and thinking of new solutions to my backup and storage issues without spending money on the NAS. And the really cool thing is, I do have an additional 1 terabyte black drive, which is quite a legendary drive actually. This drive was the first ever hard drive I bought brand new with my own money. I bought it back when I owned a Power Mac G5. This was my first dedicated scratch disk. I took out one of the original Apple 250 gig drives and I put in this 1 terabyte, and it survived through my Mac Pro, through the G5, and it's still performing absolutely wonderfully today. So that's another little backup drive that I could use for essential storage and take this off site. So there we have it, guys. That is a little update to my storage solutions and things like that, just to show you guys what's happening. Basically, the only physical changes to this setup is the move of the hard drive dock, which is extremely awesome, as well as the slight change in drives. What I'll probably do is pick up another one of these 2U shelves and get it here and lie these drives horizontally like this is, or if it won't fit with a 5U shelf for the NAS, these will just sit on the same shelf as the NAS will sit. What I'll probably do, just to make the rack look a bit better for the time being, is I'll actually get my hands on the shelf and I'll get my hands on the case, because as you know, I've owned the case for ages, and I'll just slide the case in just to get a feel of what the system is going to look like, and then hopefully I'll get enough stuff in to make a video, another part of my home network video, prior to having any kind of changes in terms of my server solution or my NAS solution. Because if I have a new UPS, which I really want to happen, I still haven't managed to sell this yet. As soon as I get a new UPS, which will obviously go in this slot at the bottom and replace that extension lead, once I get that, I'll have plenty to talk about in a new network related video. So this was just a really quick update, nothing much happening here, but I thought it would be cool to share with you guys my little sort of, I've taken the plunge and tackled something that I was really dreading tackling, and I'm quite happy with how the data is stored at the moment. So I hope you've all enjoyed. Please leave your comments and feedback down below, and as always, I will see you in the next video.